That's my opening gambit, Geraint. I fucking hate it and I'm shit at it. And I always think that's the job of, hello everyone. That's the job of the publisher.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But actually, you know what?
I mean, originally it was the job of the publisher. I should say that back in the day, it was the job of the publisher.
Yeah.
So,
No, it is not. It is not the job of the publisher. It is the author's job.
Anymore.
I'm afraid so.
Yeah, but was that made clear? Because, like, for I'm with Geraint Anderson. It's my last interview of the summer before I break. So forgive me, everyone, when I scramble my words. I am with Geraint Anderson, City Boy. Gez, though, was that made? Did you do the marketing for City Boy?
Yeah. So, as I said, the publisher's supposed to do the marketing. But they've got 30 other books they're marketing. You have to be 100% committed. It has to be a military campaign. And actually, as soon as you've got that final draft in, and you can't change the book in any way, and when it's being published and all that, you have to basically spend every waking hour trying to market it. Because as we just said before anyone came on, you could get 2 books of the same quality, and one is a #1 Sunday Times bestseller, and the other one sells 200 copies, and it's purely down to marketing. And actually, there's no one who's got a greater interest than the author in it being a success, and there is no one who knows every angle that might be taken in order to succeed. So, I think it's a massive, massive skill that no one teaches you.
But so just go back to City Boy, because that sold over 500,000 copies, right? Did you? Who was your publisher on City Boy?
So it was Headline, which is part of it was Hodder Headline, part of that French company. I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah. Hachette.
Hachette, one of the big ones.
Yeah.
And
the big one.
Look, that was so jammy. I mean, I'm not trying to do myself down here, but the book, I had 2 years of writing an anonymous column prior to that. And then when I came out of the closet, as it kept on being said, on the day of publication, it was a massive double-page spread. It had been going to 500,000 Londoners every Friday for 2 years. Then
that's marketing.
That is marketing. Yeah, but I didn't think of it at the time.
You didn't know it because you weren't thinking at the time when you were writing that anonymous column.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows, Geraint wrote an anonymous column in the Daily Mail for 2 years, kind of telling the truth about the city, and it was called City Boy and what was really going on there. So while you were writing that column, you didn't know you were going to write a book, so you were inadvertently doing the world's best marketing.
Yeah,
at that moment.
And
marketing.
Absolutely, and I got approached by a publisher. I had actually trademarked the name City Boy. It was my friend Bridget Harrison, who I think you may know a little bit, from Manchester.
He was at the launch. Yeah. I keep trying to have dinner. She's in the middle of exams.
Of course, you know. What am I talking about? Yeah, of course. Yeah. And she
I lived with her.
I know her a little bit.
I know it. Well, a little bit. Actually, do you know what? I remember so little. That's what I said to her at the launch. I said, Bridget, I remember so little about Manchester. I mean, it's embarrassing how little I remember. But anyway, it wasn't.
Manchester in the early 90s is a bit like the 60s. If you can remember it, you weren't really there.
Yeah.
That was the hacienda. I used to come up and visit you from Cambridge because
I know, I remember. Yeah, I remember those bits, and I remember I had these great little brown corduroy hot pants and Mickey Mouse platform.
Who could forget those?
Who could forget those? I remember those. I remember Naked Under Leather, that club we used to go to in Hacienda.
Yes. The Dust Brothers, the former Chemical Brothers.
Before they became Chemical, exactly.
If you remember, I'm sorry to remember you. If you remember about going to Naked Under Leather with me a couple of times, both times you said, Geraint, you have to dress up. I'm afraid you're only going to get in if they think you're homosexual. Do you remember saying this to me? And I said, oh, is that right? And you said, yeah. What you're going to do, Geraint, is you're going to borrow my jeans. And you're going to wear a leather waistcoat with no top on and a little leather cap, I think. And I said, oh, okay. How come no one else in the group is doing that? He said, oh, don't worry about that. And so I came in and I was just thinking, I feel a bit like this isn't necessarily valid, what you said. And I don't know if it was meant to, like, this is going to guarantee your success at getting into the hacienda, or I think it was maybe I don't know, maybe it was a joke at my expense. Anyway, it was some wonderful time.
No, I mean, I think I probably because I'm not a trickster. Like, I don't wind people up. I'm not one of those people. So I think maybe it must have been to do with the hacienda, because Naked Under Leather wasn't a that was Phil and what's his
Oh,
name?
sorry, I'm talking
Wasn't
about. It was not, maybe I got that wrong. Maybe it was the hacienda thing. Naked Under Leather was the
the
night the
hacienda? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we used to go to Flesh. Do you remember Flesh? That was the gay
Flesh.
night.
Yeah,
We used to go to Flesh at the gay night at the hacienda, and that, yeah, you had to
that's
be.
the one too
Although
as
that one I
well.
gave you really good advice. Was everyone else not wearing a little leather cap? But
So I think I can't remember, but anyway, back to marketing. I was just going to say that it is a jungle out there. It is,
yeah,
and you have to present and do what you can. I mean, I've been so distracted
yeah,
that in many ways, I haven't been present. I've actually need to get mindful. I need to actually stop doing it at 6, because when I'm not doing the usual admin and everything that's to do with life, then suddenly,
yeah,
sorry, I'm just moving just slightly. Suddenly you realize you're not present. You're just thinking about, oh, I've got that podcast, I've got that article for that magazine, and really it's a question of trying every single conceivable angle. I imagine it's much easier for non-fiction, as mine kind of is, than fiction, because non-fiction
oh,
I can,
yeah. I should just hold up. I've got this is a galley copy, but I just thought this is the book that's just come out 2nd of July. I'm going to read it: How to Con Friends and Manipulate People: The Subtle Art of Being a Total Psychopath. It's not the follow-up City Boy, but it is. It is
kind
what's
of. It's
kind of, yeah,
So in all truth, after I wrote City Boy and it did pretty well and got translated into a bunch of languages and all that sort of thing, the Lizzie Kramer, who is now a very big agent but was my
yeah,
agent at the time,
yeah,
she said you should write a how to succeed in business book, and I thought, my God, I couldn't think of anything more tedious. I then wrote a couple of novels, found out I wasn't really a great kind of novel writer, if truth be told. It requires too much discipline and you know, worrying about the tiny word and punctuation mark there. And so anyway, about 15 years later, watching Succession, I suddenly went, just a minute, Logan Roy is a psychopath. He has absolutely zero empathy. He's completely ruthless. He's manipulative. And then I thought, oh my God, just a minute. Some people at work used to be psychopaths, didn't they? Not only that, manosphere gurus who are kind of sermonizing about fear dominance and manipulating girls to like you by going hot and cold and all these terrible tricks. They're kind of psychopathic, and actually, politicians like Putin, Xi Jinping, and maybe even Trump, although he's more of a malignant narcissist, they're kind of
yeah,
that lack of empathy. And then, so I suddenly thought, just a minute, let's take this to its absurd extreme and write a self-help corporate book or self-help book written by a psychopath, takes their point of view and their mindset to its logical conclusion. I mean, at the end of the book, I advise you kill your chief executive whose job you're going to take, because otherwise he might come back up for looking for revenge. So hopefully people will realize it's not serious. Although some of my American friends have said, listen, man, I think people are going to take this advice and take it seriously, because it's actually quite effective advice. I need to be careful about treading that line, but it is fun. It's humorous. It's a parody, but it's obviously taken its cue from Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal, as I think you mentioned maybe before. The idea being, his book said starving Irish people should fatten up their kids and sell them to their English landlords for food, taking their indifference and highlighting their indifference by doing that. I'm trying to say, have things got so egregious in this world that actually the recommendations and the behavior of people in political and corporate power is essentially psychopathic? It's kind of and that's the conceit of the whole book.
and so far it's been out just a few days, but has
No, it hasn't
anyone
been out.
taken it?
Elliot, it's only been it's coming
Oh,
out in July
2nd
the.
July. Sorry, you see, that's how tired I am. Sorry, I thought it was 2nd June. It's coming out 2nd July. So we shall
Yeah.
find out. But tell me this, what is the difference, in your opinion, between a toddler and a psychopath?
That is a very good question. To some extent, are you taught to be non-sociopathic? Yes, or non-psychopathic. I mean, there is psychopaths. I mean, let's look at toddlers. The things that psychopaths are renowned for: one, having no empathy. That's the big one.
Yeah,
Having no conscience,
yeah,
so they don't have that internal moral compass at all. They three would be being ruthless and manipulative. I think toddlers can do that quite often. Um,
totally.
and you've got other things which go hand in hand with it. So there is a 20 question test It's called the Psychopath Checklist Revised. If you get over 30 in it, you're officially a psychopath in America. I think it's actually the bar is slightly lower here.
Yeah.
And those questions relate to two things. They're the traits you have, i.e., empathy, conscience, manipulation, so forth. And then there's the outcomes. Things like, are you sexually promiscuous? Psychopaths tend to be extremely sexually promiscuous. Likewise, they are juvenile delinquents. Now, the average man has about 4 out of 40. I have to say, I did the test myself and got 8. So I was slightly higher than average, but nowhere close to being a true psychopath. Although my wife
I
might
did.
disagree.
Because I was listening to something on the radio. I just happened to catch something on the radio the other day, and it was positing this theory that, yeah, the full-on 20 out of 20 psychopath, there's maybe only 1 or 2 in the world, and we could probably name them, and then there's a few we couldn't. But there's a great swathe of, and we'll get onto why it's always men and not women,
Mm,
mostly, but
mm,
there's a great swathe somewhere in the middle, yeah, between sort of 4 and whatever that 8, maybe 10, where it's like psychopath light, where
mm.
those traits are genuinely useful. They don't lead. You're not a complete shit cunt, but you will get the job done.
Use a technical expression. Yeah.
Obviously, but you will get the job done within the framework and the structure, the business
Mm.
model that we have built, and
Yeah.
it's obviously been built. And so, but they're not dangerous individuals. I mean, I
No.
wouldn't call you a dangerous individual, but you found
Well,
yourself
you don't remember
8 out of
Manchester
20.
1991, clearly. Uh, Good job you don't remember that. No, I mean, there are lots of. There used to be the idea that it was binary. You're either your amygdala, your
Either
kind of
are you?
your clear
Yeah.
control center, and your other that also deals with everything might be misfiring, not working properly. You are born it, and you are going to be, you are psychopathic or you're not. Now it's people look at it as like a mixing desk. There's empathy on this side. There's conscience. There's manipulation. There's deception. There's grandiosity. There's disinhibition, and these things. And the difference between two people who are both the same on the level on the psychopath. One is brought up in a loving family and is very kind, and no one has terrible abuse and maybe, let's say, is a part of them sort of on the streets with the mafia. This guy becomes an amazing lawyer. The one guy, the first guy, an amazing lawyer, an amazing, maybe a special service guy, maybe an incredible politician, and the other guy is an assassin. And it's in other
Mhm.
words, they are both born and made. And that is why, and actually, in terms of chief executives and presidents and so forth, if you are low down on low but not too low on the psychopathy checklist, it's going to be of benefit, because if you've got to fire 2,000 people before lunch, that's a great skill to have. If you've got to make unemotional decisions, if you've got to be decisive, ruthless, if you've got to be focused, hyper focused, all these things result in you being a good leader. And the two biggest psychopathic presidents, as deemed by various psychologists, were Clinton and Kennedy. But the worst, the least psychopathic was Jimmy Carter. And Kennedy, and they had charisma. Kennedy and Clinton, they were quite, I mean, he was both obviously unbelievably sexually promiscuous, especially Kennedy. But they got the job done, and they were quite good. Whereas poor old Jimmy Carter, between 76 and 80, he was a total failure, weak and wore a cardigan, for God's sake. He just he was he was just telling Americans to kind of don't go to the petrol stations during the oil crisis. He was hopeless. But maybe chief executives are massively overrepresented in psychopaths, massively overrepresented as in terms of chief executives and stockbrokers, of course. Any job that involved deceiving people, manipulating them, selling them stuff they don't want, charisma, charm, all those things, the psychopath will always do better than the normal human.
Yeah, but to say that a mild psychopath is the best kind of leader, I take massive issue with, because, first of all, seeing as it's very heavily weighted male, it really excludes
Yes, it's true.
women. And actually, women are much better fucking leaders than men. Absolutely. They clearly are. Men are
Yeah,
shit at leading, as far as I'm concerned. They are.
yeah.
They're shit at it.
Yeah.
you're brilliant at other things, but leading, I don't think
Hunting
so.
mammoths we're quite good at.
Well, look, I think men are really good. You give them one job, wind them up, and set them on it, and they'll fucking do that job and come back with the job. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas women are able to like look broad. And the
I
other
think
thing
my
I would
wife
would
agreeing
definitely
with
take
you on
it.
this.
Good. Hello, wife. But have you seen my t-shirt I wore today, especially for
On
you?
Wednesdays we smash the patriarchy.
Thank you very much.
But it's Monday.
Um, I know. Never mind. We can't tell the days of the week. Um, but the other thing I would say is that the ability to sack 2,000 people in one go,
Mm.
you know, I could do that too. The difference is I would feel it. It's the ability to be able to be with those feelings rather than the ability to do it. I just want to like be nitpicky about it, but
No,
it's
absolutely.
worth pointing at it.
And only about one in, I think it's different numbers because it's such a kind of nebulous term, psycho. It's not even recognized
Yeah.
in medical circles. They just have something in
Yeah.
DSM-5, which mental disorders, latest one for
Yeah.
America, the list. It doesn't even exist, psychopathy. They had
Really?
sociopathy in the very first one in about the 53. And then now they just have something called antisocial behavior disorder. And it's just
It's
it's a
narcissism.
blanket term.
It's narcissism in the book, in the DM5.
It's not, no.
No,
Oh,
yeah,
narcissism. I don't know that,
narcissism.
actually. Very interesting question. I suspect that is a personality disorder they probably do recognize. I think there is, yeah, but psychopathy is not. Psychopathy, but I think they do actually recognize narcissism. And of course, there is a massive, the dark triad is narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. And obviously, there's a nice big area in the middle because those feelings of grandiosity, the wish to control others. There is, but narcissisms tend to want the world to applaud them, whereas not
Yeah.
psychopaths want to control the world. Which is a slightly different motivation. If they feel the applause is going to help them control the world, then they'll certainly go for it. But it's not their central aim. But to get back to your question or the point about women is it's only about 1 in 10 psychopaths are female. And I think they ascribe that
Where are
to
you getting that from?
that's well, this is
Where are you getting?
this is just various bits of research I've done. And it is not necessarily 100%. It's too
Mm,
nebulous the term to come up with this. And what do you cut? Is the cutoff at 25 on the checklist or 30? We
right,
say in Britain we say 25. In America they say 30. 30 and
right.
above your so, I think the general thing is it's a physiological thing. In other words, and this might surprise you, Ellie, to find this out, but women's part of the brain that deals with
Bear with,
empathy.
I'm bracing.
Strap yourself, especially with that. No, no, it's not. It's not something that would be contradicting your T-shirt you're wearing. Is
Thank you
that
very much.
the part of the brain that deals with empathy in women is much more developed than that in men? And subsequently, I guess the physiological changes that have to occur to make a woman psychopathic will have to be that much more extreme. I guess with testosterone, we have a greater propensity for violence as well, and so forth. And of course, as I was saying earlier, some of the when they look at the checklist for psychopathy, it's actually not just traits like lacking empathy or grandiosity or whatever. It's actually the outcomes of that behaviors, and that would be what I would focus on. Why psychopaths who are in the boardroom or politicians, well, if they've been brought up reasonably well, they're not going to go out and stab people. But what they might do is, without any feeling in at all, just close a massive factory and have 5,000 people get unemployed, as has been
And
shown.
not think about when they go home for dinner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not think about the consequence. Psychopaths don't think about the consequence of their actions on others at all. They're purely self-centered, and in the general kind of archetype, if you like.
Yeah, and that's why the kind of toddler adult psychopath correlation really interests me, because that was always my understanding that, some psychopaths are, I think, whatever the metric is, 1 in a billion is that you're actually born a psychopath and there's something wrong with your brain. And this is the person who's, there's no hope. But for the
Well,
rest, is it? Well, whatever it is, I
kind of
don't think that sounds frightening. But anyway, okay. Well, no, go on. Tell me how many are born? Do they reckon?
generally, it's so how much they're born and made again is debatable. Partly because of this thing that about becoming an amazing lawyer or becoming an amazing fireman if you've been brought up right, or becoming
Yeah.
It's 1 in 100 is the general accepted
One in
number.
100 are born.
Is over 30 on the psychopath checklist, with all the caveats that
Even
come with that.
globally, is that a global?
Yeah, yeah. And as I say, most of those are men. And, as I say, the
And
vast majority don't become serial killers. They become chief
yeah, but if
executives.
you're saying what? Yeah, but so that 1 in 100 are born. So 1 in 100 are over the 30 mark.
Well, yes, but and whether
One,
you then as I say, the caveat
that's
being, do
terrifying.
you it is a bit, but that psychopaths, there's 2 books. So when I started writing this book, right, you know, I I thought I better just check on Amazon if there's any other books written where they're kind of pretending like it's extolling the virtues of being a psychopath.
Yeah.
And I suddenly find there's a guy called Professor Dutton called the
Yeah.
Wisdom, who written 2 books called the one is The Wisdom of Psychopaths, and the other one is with Andy McNabb, the SAS dude. And it's stating that, look at this guy, he is a psychopath, as were vast amounts of people in the SAS, as it turns out. And I called up my agent and I said, "Oh man, I can't do this book. It's already been done." Seriously. And they obviously the old line, like, Harry Potter was a book about wizards. You can still write books about wizards, Geraint, which is their favorite line. But it's
Yeah.
anyway, there is a very respected expert in the field who says being a psychopath, it's don't diss it till you've tried it.
Don't,
These people can be okay if kind of they've been brought up okay, and they how to handle them. They know themselves. You know, turns out lacking a conscience, empathy, being ruthless and manipulative is really quite. You can be very successful.
well, exactly. Don't knock it within the structures that we've built in terms of success and
Yeah,
failure. If you buy that as a premise as something good,
absolutely,
then that's fine. But if you understand that the structures we've built are unhealthy and it's built on the premise of lack of resources, which is a lot, then it's no good at
absolutely
all.
right.
But just to go to this, so because I think I'm often find myself in conversations about men with other women, and especially because I've just written Fallout, and it's Green and Common Women's Peace Camp, and I come across a lot of kind of either man hating, or we can do without them, or it's a general kind of dissing, which I never get on board with because I love men and I'm convinced that we can figure this shit out, right?
Mm,
So I
mm.
think about it deeply and think, well, is it just that by dint of all kinds of complex reasons, the vast majority of men, and this is where I'm thinking about toddlers, simply do not mature. They never
Mm.
mature out of that toddler stage. Their bodies grow, but in that sense, all those other bits,
Yeah.
the empathy, all those bits which make them like in terms of their brains like women, that
Mm,
which is actually
mm.
just the human brain, it never really happens.
Well, I mean,
So
this is evolution. I think, if you're thinking about what I would say, the conclusion I would draw from you is evolution. If The Selfish Gene was written by Richard Dawkins 50 years ago, I think, like this year, definitely. And the point is that evolutionary, surely the male as the kind of primitive, you know, person who can go in that cave and say, "Oops, what's going on? Hello, sorry, you there? Sorry." They can go into so it just went blank for some reason. There's a lion in the cave. The whole tribe we need to go there. It's raining. We're in big trouble. Who? You're a resident psycho. Go in there and deal with this stuff. And without being too reductive, evolution chooses the characteristics that will make you survive as a species. That's why, arguably, psychopaths have always had a role. It's maybe no accident that psychopaths exist. But what this means, of course, is that there is a problem in the modern world because we don't have any caves we need to go into to get which a line and has got a line in it. And in this sense, the it's the old phrase, which I'm sure you're aware of, where someone says all the problems of the world can be summed up in one sentence. We have Paleolithic brains, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. And we're basically just bonobos whose frontal lobe has mutated and made us a bit too clever. And so instead of just fighting with sticks, now we have nukes. And we're still so easily tricked and so easily fooled. And that actually is kind of what the book's about, because really the main targets are the Trumps of the world and the Putins and the Netanyahus and the Musks and these people who are manipulating us in every conceivable way. And we're so stupid, so many of us, that we still fall for it, it's a tragedy that we are just essentially just bonobos with a sort of slightly bigger frontal lobe. And that's why that's, I think, comes round to why your question about men not growing up. Well, evolution hasn't required them to. In fact, it was positively good that they didn't. And now it's been more change in the last 60 years than in previous 600, maybe 6,000 in male female relations and so forth. And we just haven't caught up. We're still, and it's a massive struggle. Combine that with social media and you've got yourself a real humdinger of a recipe for, for social tension and division.
Yeah, well, some of us haven't caught up, and because the other thing that's made us evolve and be successful in our survival and evolution is connection. The vast majority of us are really interested in connection, and that's what's made us still be around today, is how we connect and work in symbiosis with each other. But what interests me is why we have built structures where psychopathic tendencies are elevated to powerful roles, because they are in the minority. So 1 in 100, but that's 1 in 100. So that's 99 are not like that. And yet for some reason, we've built these structures which allow these 1 in 100s to get to the top. And that seems a peculiar thing to have done, especially as year on year it's proved that it's not in our best interest. The people who are benefiting from this are definitely not you and I, and they definitely are Trump, Netanyahu, and Putin.
Yeah. Well, the thing you said about connections is really interesting, because one of the main explanations for why Homo sapiens beat Neanderthals essentially is that they had smaller groups. So they tended to be in groups of, I don't know, 20, and we were more like 200. So if I suddenly, if one of my groups, my 200 people, suddenly invents a way of throwing a spear further with a stick, as the example is often used, then all 200 of us have go, oh, sweet, that's it. It's much more likely to happen. There's a much larger group. So connection and social groups and it obviously has a massive role in evolution as well. In terms of why people seem to get to the top with these, I ascribe a lot of his.
Why we've built the structures, rather, not why that. I know why they get to the top, because we've built structures to elevate them. But why have we built those structures? That's what I don't understand.
I think basically, to really be super reductive, I studied history at university, and I would say fear. Fear is the big when I look at why why did Germany ultimately in the First World War, why did it attack France? It thought France and Russia were just about to attack it. That is very simplistic. But likewise, if you're in a tribe, you fear the tribe over there. That you've got two options. You could try and make friends with them, and if the tribe had been entirely composed of women, I'm sure they would. They've just made friends with them and gone, "Hey, nice to meet you." But men will be suspicious and paranoid, and that again, it's very interesting. Like, I need to look into this more, but there's chimps and bonobos. Chimps can be incredibly aggressive. I don't know if you remember seeing that David Attenborough documentary where they just went and just massacred that other bunch of chimps. Bonobos are loving. Bonobos just have sex constantly. They'll have sex and they'll say, "Hi, sister," bang, bang, bang. "Hi, mum, how's it going?" They're just constant. That's all they do. And I sometimes,
I'm joining the bonobo.
I do bonobos all day long. I mean, obviously that's the move forward. I know. I wish it was more. It's a bit like the Hacienda in 1991, which you can't remember. Now, anyway, bottom line is that fear and aggression and the survival through let's attack them before they're about to attack us. Let's kill them before they kill us. And then you combine that with having a massive brain that can put people on the moon, and you got yourself, a one hell of a mix for and it's that tribalism just got expanded into nationalism, didn't it? And that was and the state did that. So instead of saying that tribe's going to attack us, they go, France is going to attack us. Oh, we better form a centralized state. And then, now we can get taxes, now we can get an army, and now we can go around conquering a third of the world. So, I mean, it's a slightly reductive historical point of view, but it's got some validity.
Yeah, but yeah, and the fear theory, I think I subscribe to that, but it's the reality of that fear and who's feeding that fear into the system is obviously the bit that interests me, and why. Now, of course, I understand why they want to keep us scared, because it will make us keep these insane and malignant
Yeah.
structures in place. Why do you think men are so paranoid and suspicious?
Because evolutionary wise, it has been a winning combination. It's been a winning strategy. If it, unfortunately, for let's say Homo sapiens have been around for, I don't know, somewhere between, let's say 100,000 years. I'm not 100% sure. For 99,950 years or whatever, it has been a strategy that has increase the likelihood that you as an individual will survive. So you're walking along a riverbank, you see another person coming towards you. If you are able and you can throw your spear, he hasn't seen you yet. Could be the smart move to just, throw a spear and kill him, and then, shoot first, ask questions later. And that actually comes into, play with, I think, conspiracy theories. If we're expanding this, if you see it's 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 a better evolutionary decision to see that thing floating in the water and go, that could be a crocodile, rather than that's probably a log. Because if it is a log and you go into the water, that's fine. But if it is a crocodile, you might die. And therefore, let's take the worst case scenario and run with that. And then I'll be more likely to pass my genes on, which is, we're just robots full of with being programmed by our genes to pass them on, as far as Dawkins is concerned, and as far as I'm concerned. I'm a bit more spiritual than that. Sorry, that was a little cynical.
No, that's okay. I mean, I sort of agree, but I sort of don't as well, because it's perfectly clear that positioning, the world is a place to be feared and suspicious of, has created a much more dangerous world. So it doesn't really play out. It hasn't actually made life safer at all. And so if you extrapolate that back a million years, or whenever we first walked the Earth, we should really do our science, Geraint, by the way, and get these numbers right,
No,
by the way. But anyway,
I mean, we never.
note to self. But but you know
The
what I mean? It
Homo
doesn't.
sapiens is somewhere
Like
between 200,000.
whatever it was, but yeah, okay. But I get, obviously, the let's assume it's a crocodile, not a log, so I'm not going to step on it. That right, but it doesn't actually play out. So I'm not 100% convinced by that argument. Obviously, I've heard that argument before, and I get it. It just feels a little bit too convenient, and I'm not. I don't know. I'm not 100% convinced, because it doesn't actually. Nobody can say that Trump and Netanyahu and Putin's behaviour has made the world a safer place. It clearly hasn't, and they clearly are the most suspicious and frightened humans on the planet. So I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't. I'm,
it's
you know,
enriched. It's enriched them. It's made it a very good place for them. I mean, Trump has,
it,
you know, four
yeah,
billion
he's made it.
$1 billion he's made since he's become president for the second time. It's so, in other words, their self-interest, the whole premise, and I think this is where perhaps why there's this massive divide in America now. The women are turning liberal, and the men are turning MAGA, or have been at the last election. There was a huge discrepancy, and it's ultimately whether you believe people are inherently corrupt and selfish and just self-centered and just want what they want. That tends to make you go into the right wing of view. And then there's the left wing, would tend to be more like, we can cooperate. If I leave my door open, I won't necessarily get burgled. And unfortunately, what happened is the left wing got completely discredited, didn't it, by the communist revolutions, be it Chinese, the Russian, especially the Cambodian. And so there was a huge belief that kind of concept is just never going to work. It's completely discredited. And even though they were just corrupt, absurd, efforts that had about as much to do with Marxism as I do. And so, unfortunately, now it's just variations on the free market capitalism. And as you know, free market capitalism will just result in our resources being used up, and the world becoming a dirtier, more polluted place. So yeah, it's a bit of a bugger's muddle. I don't know quite how we got into this rather philosophical discussion when we were going to talk about marketing, but
Well,
I
it
like.
also, if I may say, it just perpetuates the myth that
Yeah,
resources are scarce. the resources are finite. And I think in terms of false premises to
I mean,
buy,
yes, sorry, I didn't.
that is that resources are finite. Capitalism absolutely depends on the idea that there's not enough to go around. That's where the competitive, elbowing comes from. And if it were relentlessly made clear that there is enough, we just need to figure out how to share it properly, the
Yeah.
entire machine would fall apart,
No,
obviously.
but I
So
was
that, for me,
referring more to the idea that with constant growth and, population growth, I know that's slowing right down.
sure
You
it
know,
is, yeah.
if every current person in poverty had 2 cars and a fridge and a microwave, well, London would be a desert in 20 years' time. You know what I mean? There is a problem with this. Of course, as Tracy Chapman said, why do the children starve when there's enough food to feed the world? And that's obviously
Exactly.
completely valid.
It's the fundamental. Completely valid. Exactly. And it's not a matter of every single person having 2 cars. It's a matter of every single person having no cars or
Yeah,
whatever it is. But it's
yeah.
just an equality. And obviously, yes, Marxism absolutely put paid to any idea that, it fucked things in a million ways, actually. But it remained, I don't quite know how, this is one of my, it's one of my carrying cries at the moment, is the lie of capitalism, and is the lie that on which psychopathy is built and the structures are built, is this idea, this lie of finite resources. It's just bullshit.
Well, the
It's
interesting thing about
bullshit.
capitalism is that it is the psychopath's chosen playground because it's
Mhm.
hyper individual. It
Yeah.
requires that focus on one goal, the accumulation of wealth. It requires a belief that
At
it's
the cost
just,
of others.
yeah, at the
That's
cost of others. Yeah,
that's
it's like
it.
it's a zero sum game. It's why
It's
banking
a
was so
zero sum game. Yeah.
because the bonus pool is this big, and if Tarquin and Hugo get that much more over there, then I'm getting less. So they're your
Yeah.
colleagues, but they're not really. They're your competitors for the bonus pool, and so you do everything you can, and that's why it's really encourages psychopathic behavior. You brown nose, you steal thunder, you blow your own trumpet, you might even spread rumors, damning with faint praise. I think it's good news that Tarquin's pretty much over his drinking problem now, isn't it? That sort of stuff. John asks a lot of questions, but that's good because that's how you learn, isn't it? It's just terrible shit that went on in the city as people tried to maximize their bonus at the expense of those around them. It's just amazing.
And having lived through that, I can completely understand why. And for those who've just joined us, why it gave rise to this book,
Mm.
because that system within which you work for so many years is the perfect petri dish of
Psycho-
psychopathy.
yeah, and
Tell
actually
me,
research has shown that there is a massively overrepresented in broking. If it's 1% in the general population of psychopaths, it's different numbers, but I've heard 14% in sort of banking, investment banking, and partly that's because psychopaths hate doing exams and boring things like that, and they love jobs which are high risk, high pay, require manipulation, deceit, and charm. They're often very charming and deviousness. So yeah, and it's the cutting edge of capitalism, banking. If you put a buy recommendation on this company, its shares go up, its value goes up. If you sell that company, it goes down, and then this one takes that over. You're at the absolute cutting edge of
mm,
capitalism. So it really, it's the most extraordinary thing.
what's the relationship of psychopathy to conspiracy theorists?
Well, I mean, I like actually. I'm going to write a book on conspiracy theories because studying
Mm,
history, I am pretty much more convinced by the cock-up theory of history. People can hardly organize a bloody Watergate break-in without getting found out. And all these grand theories. The interesting thing about conspiracy theories is that the grand conspiracy theories, the ones with sometimes if you're going to the real full extreme, 12-foot shape-shifting lizards, a la David Icke, with Duke of Edinburgh hitting them up and all
yeah.
that. They all come down to they're basically psychopaths. So the 13 families that supposedly rule the world, The Rothschild being one of them, a disproportionate amount of Jews, obviously, because basically you scratch the surface of most conspiracy theories. I'm afraid it comes back down to anti-Semitism and Jewish, right since the blood libel of 900 years
Yeah.
ago, where it's stated that they put baby's blood in the bread that Jewish people ate. In other words, all this stuff with QAnon, all this stuff with Pizzagate, and that where people think that liberals and woketards are eating babies or making satanic rituals where they sacrifice babies. That stuff has been talked about for 1,000 years in regards to Jews principally. It is the principal way you demonize a group. And what I find really abhorrent is that actually, when you scratch the surface of the real MAGA lot, ridiculously high proportion of them believe those things, and it's just doesn't. I just asked them, where's your evidence? And in fact, during COVID, it really went super mad, especially with social media and COVID and Trump going, all his lies about stolen elections and that. And so I went on Facebook and I said, everyone, I've got 3,500 friends. I know about 200 people, so I don't know who the rest of you are.
But that's
Nice to meet you anyway. But can you just send me your? I've got a bit of time on my hands. It's COVID. I'm not writing anything. Just send me in your conspiracy theories, and I'll destroy them. It's fine. And I started doing it, and then it just got so bored because of what's called the Brandolini principle. The Brandolini principle. There is an order of magnitude in difference between the effort required to believe something crazy and that which is required to refute it. And it's so true. You feel like a fool if someone goes, "Yeah, Bill Gates is injecting people with something to make people find him attractive," or whatever the fuck it is. You go, "Okay, give some proof. Let's have some evidence." And I'm not going to buy into it unless you really show me. And you telling me that there aren't enough investigative journalists or smart experts who would make their career if they find out that the COVID vaccine actually kills you. Just do me a favor. I'd love to. Anyone who's listening, I'm sure Substack people are far too sensible to have major beliefs about 12-foot shape-shifting lizards and satanic pedophiles. But believe me, there's a lot of people out there who do.
Rory Fellows wants to know how many babies did City Boy eat?
Hi, Rory. Yes, friend from Ireland. So I do love babies, but I couldn't eat a whole one. They are, they are. I think I have to say, I did slightly, kind of evoke some elements of my psychopathic side to succeed in the city, but I didn't go.
Were you conscious of that at the time?
I was conscious of the fact that I was behaving in a way that was mildly reprehensible, but it wasn't much worse than everyone else. I was completely convinced at all times that they would find me out. So I had imposter syndrome with bells on because I was just a sort of funny little hippie kid who took off my ponytail, my earrings, and my goatee beard the day before I went into the city for my interview. I didn't know diddly shit. My brother gave me a 45-minute lesson on what a PE ratio was and what a dividend yield was. And so I was convinced, and also I was convinced the city was going to collapse at any minute and that I had job insecurity anyway. So I was trying to do what I could to ensure that I had the biggest bonus every year, convinced that it was my last. And, that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Yeah. And I watched in the run up to this the little montage you put together for your publisher. My publisher asked who I was.
Yes.
And it was clear from that montage that you had a huge amount of publicity for City Boy. Is that all City Boy publicity on that montage?
It's mainly City Boy. And then after it, I did some TV and radio stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous. I had 15 minutes of fame. And there's two things. I never exploited that for social media, which with the benefit, or what I did was I bet on Facebook and X. I forgot about Instagram, which of course is the one you've got to be on. So that I never leveraged off my fame, my 15 seconds of fame. And the other thing that I would tell anyone who is, I think it was Gore Vidal who said, you never pass the opportunity to have sex or appear on TV. And the reason why I mention that is because I did some TV over the last 10 years, which are just random things. Whenever there was a scandal in the city or whatever, I wasn't promoting much. I only had a film out and I had, one book maybe. And those people who I've now contacted to market this, they've stood up and said, "Oh yeah, okay, you can come back." So I'm doing some quite good stuff
Right.
on BBC
Okay.
One. The day of publication, I'll be doing something at 6 a.m, admittedly, but at BBC One. And that's the kind of thing that only happened as a result of the fact that I actually did do some of this TV stuff with it when I had nothing to promote, no agenda, nothing. So I would highly recommend, as Gore Vidal said, if you can get on TV and radio for whatever reason. I mean, did you find when you did yours for Fallout, did you use your big brain to work out every single conceivable angle that you could to write an article? I saw articles in things like The Big Issue and other stuff like that. Because I think one of the tricks that they don't teach you that you need to learn, not you personally, one needs to learn, is how can I pitch this idea to that podcast on male mental health? At the same time, I'm pitching it to that one about satire. I'm also pitching this one to this one about marital. Is your husband a psychopath? It's just about. I've been doing loads of stuff on World Cup. I'm doing 15 interviews
Yeah.
tomorrow on the BBC radio for
Great.
every conceivable BBC radio station on England need to be psychopaths to win the World Cup. Now that's thinking outside the box.
Okay.
I was thinking, you need a hook, right? So what's happening?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that thing that's going on in America, Canada, and Mexico? Oh yeah, shit.
Oh,
I could say you need to be a psychopath to win. And the reason why England have lost is they've been nice guys. And now I'm doing shitloads of stuff. It's a bit early, 2 weeks. I wish the World Cup
no,
started.
no. Well, no, but it's pre-orders. That's fine.
I know,
Because
but
pre-orders will
yeah.
get you to the top of the bestseller on pub day. So
Well,
that's exactly what you want. It's
it's
good.
yeah. I know. Do people pre-order? I don't know. I'm a bit skeptical if people.
Yeah. Yeah. No. 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 That pre-orders really well. It depends if you want to get on bestseller lists.
Well,
Because
no.
bestseller lists.
I couldn't think of anything worse.
No. No. That's the wrong answer, Geraint. Yes. Yes, you do want to get on bestseller list because that will then put you.
Yeah.
Your book will be permanently just written there, and when people are looking at that, and that will then generate more sales.
But I
So
have got
yes,
an idea for that. I asked my publisher to put me in the most obscure Amazon categories, right? So I said, is there a category for books that are self-help books, which are satirical and deal with psychology? And what I wanted to find a Amazon subgroup that had about 10 books in it. That, unfortunately,
yes, you can be
yes. And then I was going to write a huge announcement on everything going, how to
Amazon.
people is number one on Amazon. And then in very small
Amazon.
letters in the satirical business comedy section.
But it's completely aligned. It completely aligns with the book.
Right. That's right.
Marketing.
Yeah, that's
totally
it.
You seem really good, but you seem really good at it. I mean, one of my major problems is that I don't give a shit about marketing. It bores the fuck out of me. I'm not interested. I will turn up. I'm like a little wind-up toy. You point me. I'm a point and shoot author. You point me at the thing. I will turn up. I'll sing for my supper. I'm really good at that. But generating, coming, and I am doing a bit. Like just today, I'm contacting a load of schools to see if I can come in and talk to A-level students doing politics and history about Greenham Common. La la la. So I and obviously I'm in touch with the Greenham Common women everywhere.
Well, I was wondering,
database.
C&D, does C&D still exist? I didn't even know.
C&D very much exists, and I went to a thing recently, and I managed to get it into the hands of the secretary, who said he'd put it out on the national mail out. La la.
Brilliant. That's great.
Which is good, but I find if I don't have an interest for something, I just kind of run out of steam, and I'm already writing the next book. So, and I have, I had a great publisher, Midas, who did all that pre-pitching, and 2 or 3 months before the book came out, and we did a lot of pitching there. So yeah, I had a brainstorm meeting with them, and we thought about every single possible angle that we could pitch to the Guardian, to podcast, to this.
Yep.
And so we got some bites, and I'm off to Glasgow on Wednesday. I've got an event up there, and I'm at Hereford Military Literary Festival in September. It's a big.
I'll see you then. That's just down the road to me.
Amazing, but heavyweight male non-fiction military history authors, and Greenham Common. Oh, yeah,
You'd essentially be like saying, "You lot are a bunch of wankers," which is, funnily enough, when I had a brief career
I'm totally
doing
aware
after
that.
dinner speaking, I used to be invited to all these city events, and I was
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
sitting
yeah,
there going, read between the lines, "You lot are a bunch of wankers," and they kept
yeah. This is
inviting me
literally what
back
my
and
book's
paying
about.
me good money
They
for it.
loved
Yeah,
it.
they couldn't get enough of it. They're
So funny.
self-flagellating. Let's get City Boy along to tell us what a bunch of twats we are.
What a bunch of wankers we are. Yeah, hilarious. But I mean, that's what the Americans would call roasting, isn't it? So
Yeah,
yeah, they love it.
yeah, yeah.
So just tell me, is your publisher doing? Are you having meetings with your publisher, or are you doing this all off your own back, like
No.
all the BBC stuff? You is it?
So, I mean, I've actually got a PR company. I actually got a
Yeah,
PR company, like-minded PR, and they're doing a really good
nice.
job getting me stuff. The publisher, Kate Shepherd at what's it, Canelo stroke August. They
Hello. But
yeah, they are doing a good job getting me stuff. I'm
great.
and then I'm doing it myself. So to me, I wouldn't even think of writing another book now. I know it sounds weird, and I know that's the best part of this, but there is a part of me that quite likes the military campaign. Maybe it's the psychopath in
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
You know,
That's the difference between us. You love the military campaign.
I
You do
do.
it really well.
Well, that's kind.
Do it really well. Yeah.
But believe it or not, everything I've ever written has had something that really means some message that means something to me. Yeah. So City Boy was about short-term reckless gambling and the craziness of the city and how he's going to have a crisis. The next one, Just Business, was about money laundering and corruption in at the banks. The third one was how come there'd been no accountability for the banks. It's called Payback Time. That's another one. And this one is about it's mainly an anti-politician and high corporate guys, and it's about their psychopathy. So everything, even though all of them are hopefully funny, you've got to sweeten.
They are funny.
People hate polemics, and people are too busy scrolling through their phones to listen to some fucking 100,000 word shite about written by some earnest do-gooder lefty. So what you do is you trick them by making it really funny, hopefully, and then
Mm.
going, listen, have you thought about this? This is going on. And if you do, Elon Musk's X isn't trying to make you mad, you're mistaken. I mean, every time I go on fucking X now, it is literally footage of mainly people having fights and generally black people. And I thought, oh, I see what's going on here. Either the algorithms are saying I like this shit, which I don't, but I do sometimes watch it, unfortunately. You are trying to create my confirmation bias in my head.
Mhm.
You are subtly trying to make me racist. It is so clear, and it's toxic, and it's people getting shot, people getting killed. It's
Look what just happened in Belfast.
it's just horrific,
Mm.
and so I just it's a bit like Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah, yeah.
His passion comes from his despair. His one was about the American dream not being fulfilled. My one is this, like, the nastiness that people at the top are capable of. And it's not a conspiracy. They're not 12-foot shape-shifting lizards. They're just nasty, selfish people who are basically, into either narcissistic self-aggrandizement or the accumulation of wealth and power. And I suppose it's my Christian upbringing. I'm continually just disappointed and upset that, you know, that that this is the way of the world, I guess. Typical Guardian reader kind of feeling on the matter.
Well, but it has heart. I mean, beneath the funny, well-written, and very Hunter S. Thompson-like book, there is heart that
Hopefully, yeah.
you care, you're upset about this. What makes it such a brilliant book to be landing now is, that it's got bite. And in that sense, in terms of pitching, it's a relatively easy pitch, right? It's an easy sell when you're pitching to TV, radio, all that kind of stuff.
Think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way things are going. I've got about 6 podcasts. I've done a bunch of articles that are going to be coming out, a bit of TV. I mean, the weird thing is, and I think people are interested in it. Generally, psychopathy is of something that people are
Yeah.
fascinated by it, because I tell you one thing of thinking outside the box. I commissioned a survey of 2,000 people. Only cost 500 quid. I say only, I mean, it's quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
But if I don't get, and I am now going to, it was like, have you ever worked with a psychopath? 36% of people said yes. What do you
Yeah.
think is
Yeah.
the most psychopathic business, industry? And politics obviously came out top with 50%. So that's
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I'm going to hold my nose now, and I'm going to be pitching those articles to the Daily Mail, for example, you know?
Okay.
And I'm just saying
Okay.
that it's like, people, you have to do what you have to do. And the reason why I slightly disagree, I love your idealism of just writing the book and hopefully, but it's,
Oh, it's not idealism at all. I know it doesn't work. I like what you do sells books.
well,
What I do doesn't sell books. Just it does. And marketing is absolutely crucial. It's just that I have. I'm not good at it because I'm not passionate about it. It doesn't fill me with. I should do it. I should, like, the amount of conversations I've had around marketing and what I should be doing. But every time I wind myself up into it, I just go, oh fuck.
I know, but the thing is I'm desperate. I've got two more books in my head that I'm desperate to write. And if
Yeah.
this one doesn't come good, I won't get a book deal. And I'm
Yeah.
not doing that self-publishing bollocks. I'm
No.
sorry to anyone who does
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
stuff. I'm sure it's good, but
Yeah.
and that's, so basically my career, which will enhance my
Yeah.
life, is
Yeah.
dependent on this one doing quite well.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Well, that's the truth for all of us. My career is dependent on Fallout doing well, but I still can't muster up the energy to
we
focus on marketing.
we need a chat. We need like, and I swear, I mean, it's obviously easier with nonfiction, as I say, but
Yeah, I mean, literary fiction is the hardest corner of
yeah,
the bookshop, without any doubt, because we're the least read, we are the hardest hook,
mm,
and in some ways, I don't think it's the most competitive, but we are the least read and the hardest hook for sure. And
yeah,
I've had, I mean, it's done pretty well. It's got a pretty good track, and the party's not over yet. I've
no,
still got a bunch of things, all the rest of it. But I just think I really admire your verve and passion and ability to do it really well.
the,
I
psy-
just don't
the
have
psychopathic
that.
focus and
The
manipulation.
psychopathic focus, yeah. I have other skills like writing fiction. Do you know what
Yes,
I mean?
yes,
Like, I'm very good at singing you can put me on any stage in
mm,
front of any microphone, and I will do a really good fucking job because I love it. I
yeah,
really love it. So those are my skills. But generating the business, not interested.
no. Well, it's it's different. I mean, it's horses for courses. I kind of
Yeah,
enjoy it, and it's got
yeah,
some
yeah. That's
entrepreneurial stuff that I was,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's brilliant. You do it really, really well. So look, we're nearly out of time, Garrett. But so
yeah.
just for those who have got books coming out and who want to know about marketing, what are your top 10 marketing tips? Just run us through them.
I mean, contact every journalist you've ever met. Um,
Yeah.
Ask anyone you've ever met whether they know a podcaster or a journalist. Um, I think using LinkedIn is quite good. So what you do
Yeah,
is
I know. Funny old again. It's a funny place, isn't it?
you basically become a member with the 30 quid a month thing, and then you can write
Right.
messages to people. The problem is there's so much AI generated slop out there, and everyone can get if you're any journalist, people can get online, they can get your email address. So you have to cut through. You have to have that perfect headline, so which I've been
Yeah.
saying. The England
Yeah.
football one, that got cut through. It just went, England are too nice to win the World Cup, from
Yeah.
Geraint
Brilliant.
Anderson. I would say think of every conceivable angle. So when I
Yeah.
saw your book, I was thinking, oh, I hope she's got in touch with C&D, and I hope she's going to do
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
massive talk to C&D, and I hope she, people in that
Yeah.
area, every conceivable angle. So what I do, and I change your tone. So I'm incredibly serious when I'm talking to the Times, or possibly the Financial Times. I'm like, yes, this is a very serious book about how you succeed in corporate finance. And then one certain podcast, yeah, I'm a bit of a geezer, I'm focusing on some of the more salacious aspects of my previous life. Yeah, and I think maybe get a marketing company, and I think just use social media. I've been so shit
Mm.
on the digital stuff, and I know that's how you really succeed in this day and age. In this fragmented day, someone said, I could get you on they said, if you got onto the sofa of the One Show, back in the day, we could guarantee 500, maybe 1,000 books sold on that. And I was on the One Show back in the day with the
Yeah.
City. They said,
Yeah.
now we can't even guarantee that because, I mean, the one show's slightly better than that because it's just too fragmented and so many people
Wow.
watching so much stuff. So that even if you get this incredible, like what you think is unbelievable sort of marketing opportunity, it's unsure. In fact, some of the stuff I do, which is just for financial people with a little link at the back of it saying, buy the book here, that might be better because that just, they're rich, their time, you know, constrained. Gosh, yeah, let's just get that. And rather than a bunch of people having a cup of tea and not really watching, not really realizing what the hell I'm talking about.
So what moves the dial now? Apart from that, what else moves the dial? If it's not the
I
one
think
show,
podcasts. I think podcasts. So
God,
I'm doing one tomorrow, which has got a listenership of about 1 million people, and that's got to be good. And I mean, I've done okay, but I'm not. I ain't Diary of a CEO, and I'm not one show this time. But 15 years ago, when the City Boy came out, you could bet your bottom dollar I was doing all that stuff. And so this is a different kettle of fish. But yeah, it better come good, or I'm out of a job.
it's gonna come good. Where can people pre-order the
So
book?
obviously, all you can Waterstones, a book. I think I'm obviously Amazon. Yeah, pre-ordering would be lovely, and you know, I mean, if I was a true psychopath, I thought I could offer everyone half the price. Yeah, you pre-order it, and I'll just give you the fiver.
No
Yeah,
bollocks. They'll pre-order. They'll pre-order. Can they go on to City Boy? Is that? I mean, yeah, your Substack has that got a link?
yes, yeah. My
Pre-
subject is Geraint Anderson. So it's my name. I think I'm trying to lose the City Boy thing at 53. It seems a little bit, you know, undignified to call myself.
yeah, but actually, well, I know, but you see, in terms of marketing, it remains a hook,
Yeah. I
doesn't
mean,
it?
it
So
does.
I wouldn't lose it. Fine, keep
Maybe
it.
that was an error. I've only got 100. I mean, you've got about 4,000 plus followers. I've only got about 126. So
Yeah, I know, but I've been on it a long time, and I started when there was only about 10 of us here. And I make it my central. I do a couple of hours on Substack every day. I make it my central. Like everything is an offshoot of Substack now in
yeah,
terms of my work.
great.
So this is my hub, and that's how you build. And obviously, you build through just real engagement on notes and sort of celebrating and supporting other people and all
Yeah,
that
which
kind
you
of stuff.
do amazingly. Yeah,
But the thing is, that's the thing. You see, I do it because I really love it, not because I'm going to get something out of it. That's why I do it.
yeah,
That's the way my brain works. So it just happens to be have an useful offshoot. But my brain doesn't work. I don't have a manipulative
no,
brain. I just do stuff that I find fun.
yeah. Well, that is not a
You know?
bad to be.
Well, I got a lot of friends. I
Yeah,
don't know how many books I sell.
writing isn't always fun. I mean, I find it, and you know, no one finds my jokes funnier than me.
Well, but
My whole
you don't find
family,
them
my whole
funny. No one else.
family. What's that?
If you don't find them funny, then no one else is going to find
Yeah,
them funny. So
that's a
you've
good
got to
point.
be like them the best.
My whole family sometimes see me picking up my own book, reading it, and like crying with laughter, and they're just slightly embarrassing. Possibly grandiosity and narcissism writ large.
That's very funny. Will you tell them if any of you, the family listening to this, please take a photograph of Geraint. Take a secret photograph of Geraint reading
Right.
his own book and post it.
How masturbatory can you get? It's just terrible, isn't it? I shouldn't really admit to that
You
shit.
know what? I have never finished a book of mine without, and I don't mean I've reread it, but when I've finally sent it off and I've read the final draft and it goes and I've read it, I've never not cried.
Mm.
So how fucking narcissistic is that? Like,
Well,
I'm just like,
you
this is
know,
the best thing.
books are like films. Though you don't ever finish them. You abandon them, don't you? That's the thing. That's probably the
Oh, oh, I will not end on that note. Then it's not abandonment. It's just I send them out like children. You
yeah.
just send them out into the world and say, "Good luck. I'm here if you need me." And you look after them. That's how I see my books.
No, it's
And
nice.
right now, just nurturing. And the reason I'm writing the next one is because I was writing it. I mean, I wrote Fallout back in 2023. I probably finished it. So it's been a long time. It's been 3 years. So I was already thinking about the next book. And then I had to stop writing it to do the whole Fallout promotion. And now I'm back writing it again. So I'm just
That's your
onto
happy.
the thing. The things which give me exactly are writing my own books, talking to other authors, supporting and promoting, and also just having a really interesting conversations not with necessarily with authors, with all kinds of people I meet on Substack. If I think you're interesting, I will message you and say, come on live with me. That's the bottom line. So,
That's
So if anyone's listening who is an editor of a newspaper, you've got a radio show, you run a podcast,
Yeah.
you want Geraint to come on, Geraint is there. You can contact him. You can DM on Substack, or you can send him a note. Can they find you on Instagram as well? Anywhere else? Facebook?
Yes, I'm at City Boy Gez on Instagram. That's the one I decided wouldn't really make it. I thought it was all about Facebook and X. I think it tells you everything about my discretion and intelligence when it comes to social media. Now Instagram's never going to catch me.
Always.
Photos, just photos. What are you on about? Nonsense. Yes. Yet another classic.
Okay, good. So, anyone watching and record, please do get hold of Geraint. He will turn up and sing brilliantly for his supper.
At the opening,
he will be selling this. It comes out 2nd of July. Are you doing anything live? Are you at any live festivals we need to know about?
You know what? I haven't done. I haven't done a single festival. We didn't really kind of try.
You didn't promote that.
We have been really a bit late in the day for that. I would like to. I think did you see my funny video about Hey on Why? I did some guerrilla marketing there. I went there to see the Amy Winehouse.
No, I didn't.
Oh, it's quite funny.
Okay. It's okay, because guerrilla marketing I'm very good at, by the way. I've done a lot of guerrilla marketing for the book before this, In Judgment of Others. I shouldn't really say this on live, but I'm going to anyway. I went into a lot of Waterstones with a copy of it and just put it on the bestseller table. Because then somebody buys it, because it's on Gardeners, right? So then somebody buys it, and then the bookshop reorder it.
Amazing. So I remember that Saatchi, when he came out with his book, he just sent out a load of minions to buy so many copies that it became a bestseller. Now that's what serious psychopathic.
Yeah, that's what that brilliant Alain de Botton.
Yes, philosopher.
When his first book came out, he ordered 4,000 copies.
Is that right? I know that the Trumps did that.
Yeah.
I actually heard a best man speech by Alain de Botton, expecting it to be brilliant, and he started off with that terrible hackneyed gag he almost certainly got off Google, which was being asked to make a best man speech is very much like being asked to make love to the Queen. It's a great honour, but you're rather nervous or something. I thought, Jesus, I was expecting something a bit better than that.
Mate.
Oh, mate.
Oh, what a disappointment. I've always rather liked him. Okay, well, never mind. I won't ruin it. No. Okay.
He was probably in a rush.
He was probably in a rush. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to let you go. This has been brilliant. And hold it one more time. Here it is. Comes out 2nd of July. Pre-order it, please. Put Geraint on the Sunday Times bestseller list. Let's do it. And we will see you on the sofa on BBC morning show. Yeah. We'll see you on podcast. You'll advertise. Well, let everyone know. So you can find Geraint on City Boy Substack.
It's called just Geraint Anderson on Substack. And
Geraint Anderson on. Sorry, I'm doing the City Boy thing, where you will definitely post all upcoming shows so people can tune in.
Yes? Definitely.
Fantastic. All right. Bye, my friend. Loads of love. Good luck. We'll speak later.
Cheers.
All right. Bye, Dom. Thanks, everyone, for coming. See you all later. I'll see you after the summer. So this was my last live interview year of the, as it were, school year. I'll be back in August with Lauren Elkin and Oliver Radcliffe. See you all then. Bye.